One of the most common requests I get here on the channel is for me to share more budget-minded backpacking options. So today we're gonna do a first look and first impressions on this backpacking tent here, the Ampex 2-person ultralight tent. This is a first impressions video. This is not a review of this tent. I've actually never set this up before. So we're gonna check it out together. This thing comes in at a price point of $270. So a great price point. Now, this is a 3-season tent. This is not a 4-season tent. I know we're out here in the snow. It's a beautiful snowy day, but spring is just around the corner. So let's check out the Ampex 2-person ultralight tent. Well, let's take a look at everything that comes in the stuff sack here. What you have is a compression style bag with a buckle on it. So that's gonna make it possible for you to really close things up here. But I like these zipper style bags to get in as opposed to having access through the top of the bag here. So that's cool. Let's see what this is. It says guy lines. A little strap to tie it all together. Stake bag here. It's always interesting to me to see what kind of stakes come with a new tent. Okay, so these are kind of like a needle nail type of stake. Not my favorite, but those will do. And then here's our poles. Cool, so it's all on a really nice hub system, so that'll be interesting to put that together. Doesn't look like it all is separate pieces. And then the tent body here, you've got a double wall tent. So this is gonna be the fly sheet, which is gonna be a 15 denier ripstop nylon with a 1200 millimeter hydrostatic head. And then, the included footprint, fantastic. 20 denier with a 1200 millimeter hydrostatic head, and then also the full tent body. Gotta love that the snow is starting to fall as we're getting things set up here, but we're gonna lay our footprint down here first. And I'm noticing out the gate that you've got some color coordinated ends, which this also allows for a fly only pitch. So you can put your poles into this and then your fly sheet over and not carry the body of the tent. So we're gonna match all of that up. Throwing snow everywhere. Get some stakes out. The hardware here on the ends of the tent where the poles are gonna go into look be really nice. I like seeing little details like that, especially on a lower price tent like this, because you know you're getting something that is a bit higher quality. Okay, so this is gonna be a full freestanding tent, not a semi-freestanding. So the poles are gonna go all the way to each corner, which is awesome to see because it's gonna help this stand up on its own really well. And the poles here are also color coordinated. So I've got silver into silver, and orange into orange. Man, really nice, high quality plastic clips here. Well, there's our inner tent body. All right, now before I put the fly sheet on, I want to talk about just the inner body of the tent, kind of my first impressions of seeing it for the first time here. The first thing I'll point out that I really enjoy seeing is you got a really tall bathtub floor here, but then there's also this extra piece of fabric on the body of the tent that's gonna help a lot with splashback from driving rain. When you got rain that's coming down and it hits the mud and then it splashes that up against the tent body, that's gonna help protect the inside of the tent that way. But also from a spin drifting standpoint, I like seeing solid pieces of fabric that come up quite a bit higher that helps with keeping dust and sand and dirt at bay when it's moving around, spin drifting under the vestibule and not just blowing to the inside of the tent. I am noticing though that the wall here is not totally vertical, even though you've got this brow pole that comes over to increase the space inside. It does still come in and pitch in a little bit. So that could affect the amount of elbow room when you've got 2 people in the tent. All right, let's get the Rainfly on here. And again, what I'm seeing is color coordinated everything. So I actually really like seeing this here too, because oftentimes on the fly sheet here, you don't have much adjustability with the end, and you've actually got a line lock on that, which is great because this is a nylon tent. So over the time with a rainstorm, you're gonna have the nylon stretch, and that gives the ability for you to really adjust the tension of that over time and reduce that sagging. So another thing that's kind of standing out to me here is you've got 4 vents on this Rainfly, 1 at each end and then 1 at each side of the vestibule. So there it is. That is the final pitch of the 2-person Ampex Ultralight tent. There was also a bag in the stuff bag for the tent that had a bunch of guy lines in it, but the design of this looks to be a diffuser basically for putting your headlamp in, because you've got a little light label here. So putting your headlamp down in here, and this hook, I imagine, is going to be somewhere for you to hang on the inside of the tent. So we'll check that out here when we look inside, but little details I'm seeing with this tent that are really showing a lot of value that gets me excited about putting this thing to use. So in the stake bag here, I've got 6 additional stakes on top of the 8 that are already being used for the initial pitch of the tent. I've also got a pole splint and what looks to be a little repair patch kit. So again, extras that are super handy for the price point. Let's talk about the general specs of the Ampex 2-person ultralight tent here. This again comes in at a price of $270. It's a 2-person size tent with a floor dimension of 50 inches wide and 90 inches long, and then a peak height of 42 inches. So this is a roomy tent coming in at a weight of 4 pounds for the entire package. Now there's gonna be ways for you to reduce that weight, remove the footprint, take less stakes, that kind of thing. The fly sheet is a 15 denier ripstop nylon that has a 1200 millimeter hydrostatic head, and then the floor of the tent is a 20 denier ripstop nylon with a 1200 millimeter hydrostatic head. As I mentioned as I was putting the fly sheet together, you've got 4 vents on the tent, but then one of the cool things that just instantly stood out to me about this is the way that this door opens. If you're familiar with the Copper Spur from Big Agnes, this is a very similar design where you've got a zipper here on this end and then your main zipper, that this will actually open up. Sorry, I'm trying to make it visible on the camera, to where it's like an awning over the tent. So you've got a loop here that allows for you to put a trekking pole in, and then all of those extra guy lines that came with it, you'll be able to run down to the ground, stake it into the ground with those 6 extra stakes that came with the tent. Plenty of vestibule space here as well. And then I'm also noticing one more thing that we'll talk about before we get into more of the inside of the tent, but you've got some loops here, which is giving me the impression that you could pull this out, roll this back, and put that into like a stargaze mode, essentially, and then have the fly sheet ready to go. And if it starts to rain for any reason, I can quickly pull that down. That is a really cool little detail that I like to see on the tent like this. But then just back to the door here, I think it's important to note that everything is color coordinated with silver on one end, orange on the other end, specific for how the fly sheet comes together on the door, because this awning, if it was on the other side, would make it weird with where the door opening is here. So make note of that, that always keep the colors together so that everything functions the way that it's supposed to. All right, let's jump into the inside of the tent here, but the shape of this door getting into the tent is really nice. The sliders have really good, easy pull and access to them. I can roll this back. That's a huge opening there. Nice. Sitting on the inside of the tent here, there is a lot of space for one person to move around. I've got plenty of space here above my head, and I'm also noticing that there are pockets for days and loops all over the place. You've got a pocket here in the corner, you've got a pocket here, another pocket behind me, so 3 on that end. And I like that they're also elevated off of the floor of the tent. And then at the back end of the tent here, opposite of me, is 2 more large pockets, and then another like pocket similar to this one that you just have gear storage galore in here. You've got some loops here at the top that's going to let you clip that little bag for you to put your headlamp in and be a little diffuser lantern type of thing. But what I'm really interested in is getting those 2 25-inch wide pads in here and to see what that space is like with those pads inside of the tent. Now that's confirmed. This is 50 inches wide. It does fit 2 25-inch wide pads, and I like that a lot. It obviously doesn't give you much space at all to put gear, but you've got generously sized vestibules on both sides and really easy access in and out on both sides of the tent that this could absolutely function well as a 2-person tent. Now, because it's double walled, I don't have to worry so much about condensation. So if I've got a partner, a friend, spouse, or whatever that is sitting up next to me shoulder to shoulder, no, there's not a ton of elbow movement space around. So changing, pulling a shirt off and everything, you might elbow your friend in the face, but because of the mesh right here, you're not rubbing against the outside wall of the tent, so you don't have to worry about that condensation rubbing and getting all over your gear, and that's nice. But for a 1-person tent, this thing is going to be a palace. There is so much space in here, so much gear storage. I'm seriously impressed with all of the little details that I'm seeing in this tent. At under $300, there's a lot going on here that I think it makes this really exciting for everything that you get out of it. This is awesome. So I'm gonna lay down here for a minute and just enjoy enjoy the quiet. It's also nice to note that when laying down, I don't have mesh and stuff right in my face. So the end walls of the tent are nice and vertical, and when I'm right here, I don't have a bunch of mesh that's like really close to my face. Oftentimes, once you put your sleeping pad inside of the tent, it's 3-4 inches tall, and it brings your face pretty close to the tent wall. But if I've got my partner, my spouse, or whatever right here next to me, that is very reasonable. Plenty of ventilation. You got a vent right here at your head end. This is great. Now, my final thoughts here of the Ampex 2-person ultralight tent and my first impressions of it. Out of the box, this has everything that I want to see out of a high quality, well thought out backpacking tent. There are so many fine details that I've already talked about that really stand out to me. From what you're paying, you're getting so much value out of it. There's so much functionality. And what I cannot speak to though is the longevity of it. How long is it going to last? How well is it going to do in heavy rain and heavy winds and that kind of thing? So this is not a review. I am not recommending right out the gate to say you should buy this. I'm just looking at this from out of the box. I'm impressed with the construction of it, the build quality, all of the little design elements that at $270, you're getting a lot of tent for the money. And if I was to compare this to the Big Agnes Copper Spur, because that's what I am mostly seeing out of the design cues with the way that the door is done, this I think would be a way better value for pretty much half the cost of what you pay for the Copper Spur. Yeah, it's a little bit more weight, but you get a really functional tent here that has a lot of ventilation, which the Copper Spur pretty much has no vents on the tent. And you get so many design qualities that make it really functional. I'll repeat that as many times as I need to get the point across that this is just standing out to me as a well thought out backpacking tent. I'll share more on this after I get some field experience with it, but let me know down in the comments what you think about this tent. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.